In the annals of military history, few decisions have proven as strategically significant and historically puzzling as Genghis Khan's choice to halt his westward expansion at the banks of the Indus River in 1221 CE. Standing triumphant after decimating Jalal ad-Din's forces near modern-day Kalabagh, the great Khan possessed perhaps the most formidable military apparatus the world had yet witnessed. Before him lay the Indian subcontinent, a civilization that contemporary accounts suggest controlled approximately one-third of global economic output. Yet he turned back. This decision represents a masterclass in strategic restraint that finds remarkable parallels in modern geopolitical calculations. Just as contemporary superpowers must weigh the costs of military intervention against potential gains, consider America's withdrawal from Afghanistan in 2021 or Russia's current struggles in Ukraine. Genghis Khan's calculus transcended mere military capability. The overextension thesis, lessons from imperial overreach, historical context, and modern parallels. The most compelling explanation for Genghis Khan's restraint lies in his acute understanding of imperial overextension, a concept that resonates powerfully with contemporary strategic analysts. The Mongol Empire in 1221 already stretched across an unprecedented geographic expanse, from the Pacific Ocean to the Caspian Sea. Adding the Indian subcontinent would have created logistical challenges that even the Mongol administrative system might have struggled to manage. This mirrors the strategic challenges faced by modern powers. The Soviet Union's collapse in 1991 was partly attributed to imperial overextension. Maintaining influence across Eastern Europe, Central Asia and proxy states worldwide while fighting in Afghanistan proved economically and administratively unsustainable. Similarly, the United States has grappled with the costs of maintaining global hegemony, leading to strategic pivots such as the rebalance to Asia under President Obama. The administrative challenge. Unlike the pastoral societies of Central Asia that the Mongols had successfully absorbed, India presented a fundamentally different civilizational challenge. The Delhi Sultanate, despite its foreign Turkic origins, governed a sophisticated agricultural economy with established urban centers, complex trade networks, and deeply rooted cultural institutions. Integrating such a system would have required not just conquest, but fundamental administrative transformation. Modern counterparts include China's approach to Hong Kong under one country, two systems, recognizing that direct integration of different political and economic systems requires careful, gradual management rather than immediate absorption. Genghis Khan's decision-making process was notably data-driven for his era. The Mongol intelligence network, comprising merchants, diplomats, and cultural informants, provided detailed assessments of potential targets. However, India presented unique intelligence challenges. Unlike the nomadic societies of Central Asia or even the settled civilizations of Persia and China, the Indian subcontinent's linguistic diversity, cultural complexity, and religious heterogeneity would have made effective governance extraordinarily difficult. This resonates with contemporary military interventions, where intelligence failures have led to strategic disasters. The 2003 invasion of Iraq demonstrated how military superiority cannot compensate for inadequate understanding of local dynamics. Similarly, NATO's intervention in Libya in 2011, while militarily successful, failed to account for the post-conflict governance challenges that followed. Cultural intelligence and governance. The Mongols' previous successes relied heavily on their ability to co-opt local administrative structures and religious hierarchies. In China, they utilized the existing Confucian bureaucracy. In Persia, they worked through Islamic administrative frameworks. India's caste system, regional variations, and the complex relationship between Hindu populations and their Turkic Islamic rulers presented a governance puzzle that may have appeared unsolvable through traditional Mongol methods. Economic rationalism. Cost-benefit analysis in medieval context, resource allocation and opportunity cost. From an economic perspective, Genghis Khan's decision reflects sophisticated cost-benefit analysis. The Mongol Empire's wealth derived not primarily from territorial control, but from facilitating trade along the Silk Road networks. Conquering India would have required massive resource allocation with uncertain returns, particularly given the logistical challenges of maintaining supply lines across the Hindu Kush and governing a population that vastly outnumbered the Mongol forces. The Mongols may have calculated that maintaining trade relationships with Indian merchants was more profitable than direct conquest. Historical records suggest that commercial exchanges between Mongol territories and Indian trading networks continued throughout this period, generating revenue without the administrative overhead of direct rule. Modern China's Belt and Road Initiative reflects similar logic, extending economic influence through infrastructure investment and trade partnerships rather than traditional territorial expansion, recognizing that economic integration can achieve strategic objectives more efficiently than military conquest. By 1221, Genghis Khan was approaching his 60s and increasingly concerned with consolidating his achievements and planning succession. The Mongol Empire faced internal challenges from ambitious generals, tribal rivalries, and the complexities of governing sedentary populations. Adding India to these responsibilities might have triggered centrifugal forces that could have torn the empire apart prematurely. This mirrors contemporary concerns about strategic overcommitment. China's current leadership under Xi Jinping has emphasized strategic patience in territorial disputes, focusing on internal development and gradual influence expansion rather than dramatic military moves that might destabilize existing gains. Genghis Khan may have intuited what military strategists now recognize as the Vietnam trap, the risk of becoming bogged down in prolonged occupation of hostile territory. The Delhi Sultanate, despite its foreign origins, had been fighting various local resistance movements for over a decade. Adding Mongol occupation to this volatile mix could have created the medieval equivalent of an insurgency that would have drained Mongol resources indefinitely. While often overlooked, the religious dimension of Genghis Khan's decision deserves serious consideration. The Mongol religious system, Tengrism, shared certain philosophical compatibilities with both Hinduism and Buddhism. The prospect of destroying sacred sites and alienating populations that practiced religions with some cultural affinity may have influenced his calculation. Countries today recognize that cultural and religious sensitivities can significantly impact the success of political interventions. Several of Genghis Khan's descendants, notably Kublai Khan, would later adopt Buddhism. This suggests a familial and cultural affinity for Buddhist philosophy that may have influenced the great Khan's reluctance to campaign in Buddhism's spiritual homeland. While speculative, this consideration aligns with how modern leaders factor cultural diplomacy into strategic calculations. Rather than viewing India as a missed opportunity, Genghis Khan's decision should be understood within his broader strategic framework. The Islamic world, from the Abbasid Caliphate to the various Central Asian emirates, represented a more immediate threat to Mongol interests and a more culturally familiar target for conquest. The destruction of Khwarezmia served multiple strategic purposes. It eliminated a major military threat, secured the western flank of Mongol territory, and demonstrated Mongol power to potential enemies. Pursuing Jalal ad-Din into India was tactically logical, but withdrawing after his defeat showed strategic wisdom in recognizing the difference between pursuit and conquest. Modern military doctrine emphasizes the concept of decisive points, objectives that, once secured, provide maximum strategic advantage with minimum resource expenditure. For the Mongols, securing Central Asia and weakening Islamic power centers served their strategic objectives more efficiently than conquering the Indian subcontinent. The weather factor reconsidered, environmental determinism and military effectiveness, traditional explanations citing India's climate as a deterrent oversimplify the Mongol military system's adaptability. However, environmental factors likely played a more sophisticated role in strategic calculations. The monsoon cycle, unfamiliar disease vectors, and different agricultural rhythms would have required fundamental adaptations to Mongol military and administrative practices. Modern military operations continue to grapple with environmental challenges. NATO operations in Afghanistan required significant adaptation to high-altitude warfare, while operations in tropical environments demand different logistical approaches. The Mongols' recognition of these challenges demonstrates strategic sophistication rather than environmental weakness. Genghis Khan's decision at the Indus offers timeless lessons about the importance of strategic restraint. In an era where military capability often exceeds strategic wisdom, the great Khan's example suggests that true strategic genius lies not in maximizing conquest, but in optimizing sustainable control. Contemporary parallels abound: NATO's restraint regarding direct intervention in Syria, China's measured approach to territorial disputes in the South China Sea, and Russia's calculation of costs versus benefits in various post-Soviet interventions all reflect similar strategic logic. The distinction between demonstrating power and exercising power remains relevant today. Genghis Khan's withdrawal after defeating Jalal ad-Din accomplished the immediate strategic objective, eliminating a threat, without incurring the long-term costs of occupation. This principle guides modern military doctrine, where surgical strikes and limited interventions attempt to achieve specific objectives without broader commitments. Genghis Khan's decision to forgo the conquest of India represents one of history's most sophisticated examples of strategic restraint. Far from representing weakness or missed opportunity, it demonstrates the mature strategic thinking that enabled the Mongol Empire to become the largest contiguous empire in human history. The decision's enduring relevance lies in its illustration of timeless strategic principles: the importance of sustainable expansion, the wisdom of consolidation before further growth, the need for cultural intelligence in governance, and the recognition that military capability must be balanced against strategic objectives. In our contemporary world, where great powers again grapple with questions of intervention, expansion, and strategic commitment, Genghis Khan's example at the Indus River offers a masterclass in the exercise of power through restraint, perhaps the most sophisticated form of strategic thinking available to leaders across the centuries. The great Khan's legacy rests not only on what he conquered, but on what he chose not to conquer, demonstrating that true strategic genius sometimes requires turning away from apparent opportunities in service of larger, more sustainable objectives.